I'm Dr. Michael Gross, and I appreciate you being with me. And my cohort next to me is Tio Knapp. So thank you for all for joining us. And I want to share some information with you. First of all, as you know, this is completely channeled. So if I mix up a word or say something, it's channeled information. Therefore, nothing is rehearsed. And for me to rehearse something would not work for me because I'm channeling the information. And sometimes I may hesitate or mispronounce a word, and I will correct myself. So that some of us will go, well, that's not very professional if it's not perfect. Well, all I want to say is the information is perfect. And the delivery, I hope, will be as close to perfect as possible. So, what I'd like to talk to you about is living in the past. And one of the cliches that the true source told me is the past predicts the present, and the present predicts the future. Therefore, let's say you had a fear of swimming in the past, you have a fear of swimming in the present, and in the future, you're going to have the same thing. So, what this is all about that I want to share with you in these words of wisdom is that we need to be able to stop and take a look at our life and say, okay, what is impeding me? What is stopping me from doing my missions and goals spiritually, human level, and being great and have great expertise in all the things I'm doing? What is stopping me from achieving my life goals, whether it be family, friends, relatives, children, or spiritual goals? And that's really important for us to think about. So living in the past is all the old fears, all the old criticism, all the old doubts, everything we ever heard from our family, friends, religious leaders, or whomever, even when you went to school or whatever. And I remember for me, I had a geometry teacher, and she looked to be 140 years old. She was probably 65 years old. And I will tell you that she taught by intimidation. That does not work for me. And one day I forgot to do my homework, probably subconscious. And she just berated me and jumped all over me and wring me out from one end to the other, which she would do to everybody. And you know, the girls in the class would cry when she do that, but real men don't cry, so you had to hold it in. And uh, in New York State, they have what they call a Regents exam, so you have to pass the high school exam, but more important to go on to the next grade, you had to pass the New York State Regents exam, and that was given statewide. And so in algebra, maybe it was geometry, I forgot which, I think it was geometry. So whatever it was, I think 68 was passing or something like that in New York State Regents, and I got a whopping 52. So I had to go to summer school. And of course, I was embarrassed. But going to summer school, I didn't want to repeat the class and I didn't want to be held back. So I went to summer school. And I had this great fear of geometry. Oh, I'm not going to do very well. I don't understand it. I am overwhelmed. So the teacher began to teach, and it was like crystal clear. I could understand everything she said. It was so easy in her presentation, and she was so helpful and so kind. So at the end of whatever it was, 4 or 6 weeks, I had to take a new exam, and it was a new New York State Regents exam. I got 98. What a difference. And I use that as an example because I was living in the past. You know, my fear that I didn't understand geometry, fear of being intimidated, put down, judged, criticized. That has to do with what? Self worth, self love, self esteem, and went through all that. And then I no longer had a fear of doing that because she took the time, and there were others repeating it, to do it quickly, rapidly, easily, and effortlessly, and crystal clear, which is a great art that she had. And that's just an example. But how many things in life have we tried or experienced, or we have done, that we've been criticized, judged, or even experienced that it was, some people say, failure? And my caveat to failure, there's no such thing as failure. You learn what worked and didn't work, just an experience. But we'll use the word failure. And then you live in that fear. You're afraid to move ahead. You're afraid of being judged. You're afraid of being put down. You're afraid of being embarrassing yourself. You want to run and hide. all those things that we feel. Now all of a sudden, we leave grade school, mid high school, and then you go to high school, and then you go to college, and you still have these blocks in your life, these things in the past that are roadblocks. And some of them we stuff in little closets, little corners, and we forget about them. But unless you heal and release those fears from the past, they will show their ugly head at the least convenient time in your life. And one of the things I've learned is if I'm challenged with something, there are two things that I can do: either learn it, or ask somebody to teach it, or ask somebody to do it. And that's an important thing that we need to look at. Now that you are above the age of 21, 22, maybe some of you aren't, hopefully a younger crowd will be watching this, but you reach a certain age and time where you realize you have to understand the basics. And that's what's so important. So I know the basics in, geometry, trigonometry, algebra. Am I an expert at it? Mm-mm. I understand some of the basics, just some of it. And so what's really important for us to realize is what is it in our past that's preventing us from moving fully forward? What is that fear? What is that doubt? What is that insecurity? And the problem with in our life is the most important thing is we are afraid of being judged because we don't like being criticized, put down, or even ignored. And the most important thing about this is it's your life. And because it's your life, what are you going to do to make it successful? Well, everybody has a different definition of success. Some people say you conquered something. Some people say being a billionaire, trillionaire, owning a huge business. But I want to bring down the words of success at a very even level. And first of all, if we look at the word success, I want you to think about it means being able to accomplish something. Now, we all have expertise. There are people that are natural carpenters or electricians, or let's say heavy duty equipment drivers, or even salespeople, or teachers, or, economic. Well, I use economic experts. I taught economics, marketing, and business communication in college. All these things. We have to look at our life and say, what is important to you? You, not what everybody else is thinking. And that's the trap because we're always going out there, or most of us, to please someone else. Why? Because we want recognition, we want appreciation, we want to be able to say, I am equal to you, or whatever that may be. Well, at this point, I'm not equal to Stephen Hawkins, theoretically the smartest man in the world to birth out of his body. I have no desire to be that. Maybe there are others. But what I have is a lot of knowledge. You have a lot of knowledge who are listening to this. Think of all the things you've done in your lifetime. Think about that. So if we look at it, we've been cooks, bottle washers, babysitters, repairmen. We've worn so many hats and done so many things. So first of all, get out of the past fears. Look how amazing you are. Just think about it. Like I said, you're a teacher, you're a chef, you clean the house, maybe you're a babysitter, maybe you're a chauffeur, maybe you play doctor or nurse to some small degree. You've done all these wonderful things, but you don't realize it because all you can see, you have tunnel vision, is that one or two or three or four things that you are living in the past that created fears, doubts, insecurity, low self worth, self love, and self esteem. And then our human side is, well, I was just a victim. It's not my fault. First of all, I would like all of you to take a moment to realize whatever is going in your life that is challenging, it isn't your fault. However, he says that with a caveat, it's in your life because it's to teach you knowledge, to teach you and show something that is priceless. And if you were to look at these challenges in your life, you created them, allowed them to be in your life to create what? Growth. So you can grow and learn new knowledge and overcome those fears, those blocks, those insecurities. Isn't it time for us to move ahead? Isn't it time for us to realize that there's only one direction in our life, and that's forward? I've alluded before with the horses, they have these blinders. So when they're walking or trotting or running, they can't see what's on the left, they can't see what's on the right. They can only see what's exactly in front of them. And that's what's so important because they're always looking forward. They can see the road, they can see wherever you're steering them, and they do the best to get you there in being sure footed. The average typical person, they'll ask their friends for their opinion. Well, if you ask 100 people, you get 100 opinions. And you go, well, which one is right? And maybe they're all right and maybe they're all wrong. But more importantly, you can research and research what is correct for you. Now, you can ask a few of your mentors' opinions and they'll give you opinions. You can Google it, and goodness knows, you can find anything you want, or YouTube. You can do that. But more importantly, you're missing the most important factor in your life. And that is what you intuitively, what feels right in your heart and your soul that you're going to do something. And a lot of people go, well, I don't know, I've never felt that feeling. Yes, you have. There's some times in your life where you pursued something, you just knew it was right. That warm, fuzzy feeling, and you didn't question it. The minute we question it, ask somebody for their opinion, you get a lot of opinions. Well, I've owned quite a few businesses in my life. And if I listened to someone else's opinion, I would never have opened the businesses, nor would they have been successful, because if I were to listen to them. The other hand is you just know, you just feel what's right. Whenever you do that, it's a knowingness, it's a feeling, it's a peaceful feeling, and there is no doubt. And what do the human people do? Well, we got to check and make sure I'm doing the right thing. Well, I'm sure Steve Jobs did that, or Bill Gates. A computer. Who needs a computer? We don't need it. We got an adding machine. We have a typewriter. What do we need all that stuff for? Right. We would have never had that happen. So
Excuse me,
everything.
Michael.
Yes.
Could you is it our ego that doubts us, that doubts our intuition?
Yes. It
Can
is
you
the
explain that
ego.
a little bit?
Pardon me?
Excuse me, can you explain that a little bit for everybody who's joining in
Sure.
tonight? Thank you.
When you're doing something, and I call listening the thoughts of your soul, you get a blank, short answer. I shouldn't say blank, but a simple answer. Yes, no, good, bad, right or wrong. The minute you go for the ego, that's why you're checking with somebody else to see if it's right, not to get information, but to make sure you're doing the right thing. And so the ego has to justify everything you're doing, has to give you a reason. That's the justification. Whereas it is your soul just directing you where it just feels right, you don't know what's going to happen. You know it's going to be successful. You know how it's going to be successful, but it's that feeling of joy. Yep, it's going to work, going to work, going to work. And it works. And you do that. And yes, along the way, you'll stumble and, you'll learn some things, but you'll end up being very successful. And that's the difference between souls who are just common, ordinary laborers and those who are entrepreneurs who are creating new vistas, new ways, new excitement that's going on. Now, when I was growing up, I learned, my father said, luck is a funny thing. The harder you work, the luckier you are. Okay. So I worked very hard and I succeeded. Then it became not working harder, working smarter. That's a heck of a difference. Working smarter. So you don't have to work as hard. You work smarter and accomplish the same thing in the same amount of time. Because maybe you're reorganizing, you've done the research, you're drawing on knowledge, you may be doing something else to figure out what's going on. The problem with our world today is everybody's a robot. And that's the way society likes it. You do this at 2 o'clock, you do this at 3 o'clock, you do this. They don't want anybody taking the initiative. They don't want anybody doing anything. So I'll call up a company and want an answer. Well, I have to check with my legal department. I'll have to check with my supervisor. I'll have to check, blah, blah, and have to check. Well, why don't you hire the person? They can't make decisions. That would be like you're out there and it's World War II and you're being attacked by your enemy and you got to ask your sergeant, can I fire my gun to protect me? And the sergeant goes, well, let me check with the lieutenant. The lieutenant says, wait a minute, I got to check with the captain. The captain says, wait a minute, I got to check with the major. You work your way up to the general. By that time, the enemy's on top of you. So either you fired your gun or you ran like heck. I mean, this sounds ridiculous, but that's what's going on because we are not training ourselves. Notice I said ourselves to be able to make the right decisions because society, businesses don't want people to make decisions. Just follow the rules. And part of the reason is they don't want to be sued. They don't want to make the wrong decision. The other part of it is so that there's no critical thinking. You become a robot because you have a fear if you don't follow the rules, you're going to lose that job or you can't help someone. And so I have learned this throughout not only teaching at college, but working with so many people. Those who are rule breakers, not in an egotistical way, talking about a rule breaker that sees the right way. What happens is they eventually will move up the company. Or maybe they'll get laid off, but they'll realize, hey, that wasn't really the right company for me. So here we are in the year 2022. And here we are. We're not able to make our own decisions unless you're an entrepreneur. And the answer is, so what if you make a wrong decision as an entrepreneur? You'll learn something. You'll learn how to correct it. And that's what's so important. You know, there are many stories about, the Ford Motor Company. And in the Ford, Mr. Ford, when he made the car, he failed several times. A lot of people don't realize that. And his motto is, you can have any color car as long as it's black. That was it. All right. And what he did was establish something new. He was the first car company, I believe, to take everything from scratch, from iron, steel, make everything, forged it, put it together, and he made the Model T. And they call it the Tin Lizzie. You know what? There's some Tin Lizzies I see that are over 100 years old that haven't rusted out. Pretty amazing, isn't it? So here we have the car. And what they had was an assembly line, which we have now. But you would do, you would put in the axle and maybe the springs and you go to the next guy and he would put on the rear axle and the springs. Next guy would bolt it to the body. Well, they would go, hey, Michael, what? You forgot to put a bolt in. And then Michael would run over and put in a bolt that he forgot to put in. So the Japanese, after World War II, came up with an assembly line where they worked as together a team. And really all they did was enhance what Henry Ford had done. Now I bring that out because we have to understand that our creativity and our life is what our soul is saying, but what feels good and right with you. And so many people will go, well, I think it feels right. The minute you do that, you're creating a block, living in some fear of the past, of failure, whatever it is, and you're listening to your ego. They say 98% of the time, go with the first feeling. Kind of interesting because the other day I'm now into quizzes. You're testing your IQ and all that. There are some answers I really don't know, but I just get this feeling. choose this one or that one. And I will tell you, 98% of the time, I am right. My intuition is telling me to just, it feels right. Can't explain to it. Why does it feel right? You can't. It's an inner knowingness. And that's what I wanted to share with all of you, is that not only stop living in the past, but that inner knowingness, that feeling of satisfaction, that feeling that it's going to work out. Don't know how, but it's going to work out. So I pose these thoughts to you and these little questions to you for you to begin to look at your life and look at the roadblocks in your life, whether they come from your family, friends, relatives, whatever they may be. But more importantly, you are in charge of your life. You know my hat, you are unlimited. And really, just start thinking that way. When you think you're unlimited and you can accomplish anything, you will achieve at 99% of the things. Or you will find those that will help you to do that, or you will learn it. But we reach a point in time where we have so much information, so much information. And there's a couple of more things because I got a few more minutes I can speak. And one of the things I wish to talk about is I have a lot of people come to me and they say, well, they forget things or they forget to do things. And so do I. Oh, it's my age or whatever. And when I ask the true source, I go, nope, we're overloaded with information. Just think about a brand new computer. Runs really fast. And more software, more software, more software begins to slow down, slow down. And that's what you are doing. You're processing so much information. So what I'm saying to all of you is get out of your fears of the past, get out of your doubts. They were a learning situation that you attracted in your life to overcome, and you can overcome those. So I'm looking at the clock and we're about the 22 minute. Are we about the 22 minute? All right. I'm going to invite all of you, when you see this, go to the chat box and put in some questions. And then I will look at the chat box next time we talk, and I'll just spend a couple of minutes talking about that, talking about some of your questions. Most importantly, it is for you to not live in the past and not let the past control you. And how are you controlled? By your fears and doubts. You know how they say if you tell a story to one person, there are 100 people in line. By the time it comes to the 100th person, it's been totally exaggerated or changed. Think about that. Why do they do that? Because they're interpreting what you're saying. Interpreting. And you are interpreting whatever I'm saying, or a family, friend, or relative is saying, based on your experience from the past. Past predicts the present predicts the future. So if you're afraid of judge, or if you're afraid of this or that, you're going to react to it. And that's something we need to understand. The past is the past. The present is whatever you wish to make of it. You know, I had one friend, and I said to them, "Gosh, looks like you put on 2 or 3 pounds. You look great." And they went right down my throat, screaming and yelling, "What do you mean I'm fat?" And on and on and on. No, you were too skinny, and 2 or 3 pounds makes you look right. But she had a fear of being fat. So if I said you look great, you put on a couple of pounds, 2 or 3 pounds, she thought in her head I was saying fat, totally misinterpreting it. How many times, based upon your experience in the past, are you misinterpreting what someone is saying? So here's the safety measure. One, listen, don't react, act. After they're through, say, you know what? Thank you. I'm not sure what you meant by that. Would you mind explaining it to me? And I will assure you, 99% of the time or close to that, it's not what you were thinking. It's what you were reflecting upon. And that you need to remember. So everyone, we're getting close to the time when we're almost through with this podcast. I want to thank you for being on this podcast, and I'd like to share some things with you. And this podcast is being brought to you by Healing the Holes in Your Soul, written by TUNAP, and
the spiritual primer. Michael, I'd like to add a couple things though, okay?
yep.
Okay. Michael has an incredible book here. His second edition will be coming out soon. And I'd like to go ahead and also take a couple minutes to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I, and letting you all know a little bit about Dr. Michael Gross. His first book that came out empowered me so much, I decided to start working with Michael Gross. And because of this book and the incredible man next to me, well, virtually next to me, my book was written as well. So there's a lot of golden nuggets in both of these. And, you know, if you want to learn more, definitely connect with one of us. The contact information will be down below in the comments in Facebook, and it'll also be up on Michael's YouTube channel. But before we go, what I'd like to do is let you know just the integrity of the man that has been speaking. I've been really quiet today, so he was channeling. I didn't want to interrupt, so I did jump in one time, but he had such valuable content, and I'm really glad that you talked about it today. But Dr. Michael Gross is an author, professional keynote speaker, transformational coach, and an entrepreneur. You've just been listening to a man who for more than 3 decades has been on a spiritual path as an intuitive, a healer, a spiritual counselor, and an incredible teacher. Through the guidance of spirit, Michael has assisted others in their personal quest for self-empowerment, helping them to create the lives that they have long sought and to bring forth their intuitive abilities. Michael currently teaches classes in spirituality, self-empowerment, Reiki, and other modalities. In concert with God, the true source, he has also achieved great success and miraculous healings. He remains humble, knowing that the work that he does all comes from God, the true source. He lives currently in Lakewood, Washington, and he is also the founder of an incredible nonprofit. Please take a couple minutes to share with the people a little bit about your nonprofit. Okay, Michael?
Sure. Sure. It's the International Institute of Self-Empowerment. We affectionately call it TISI, the International Institute of Self-Empowerment. It's a 501c3, and it's all about helping people. And I decided to do 12 arms, figuratively speaking. And after working with TU and helping her write the book, Healing the Holes in Your Soul, and how I helped her write it is helped her to express all the anxiety, all the fears, all the doubts, all of her experiences, which was a very, very painful thing for her to do. But at the end, she became renewed and rejuvenated like the phoenix bursting out of the ashes. But more importantly, it's the story of a woman who changed her life. And I would encourage all of you to read her book. But all the experience she shared with me, which is beyond my wildest understanding, and she explained it to me and gave me new insight. And because of this, I made her director of abuse, women, children, and men. We'll have more information on that. But it's a 501c3. And also, if you want, we're open to donations, and that'll be listed in the chat section. And then on every Tuesday, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time to roughly 7:30 p.m., I call it Words of Wisdom. And in the Words of Wisdom, you can ask any question you so desire, and then I deliver a 10 to 12-minute message. And I would encourage you, all of you, to participate in it, and hopefully I'll be able to answer your questions, but we all learn something new as well as I do. And to you, how do we contact us?
The number you dial is 202-926-1059, and the access code
125-446-pound.
I'll give it again. It's 202-926-1059, and the
access code is 125-446-pound. And the second Saturday of every month, I have what I call a mass consciousness healing. And it starts at 9:55 a.m. Pacific time. It goes to approximately 11:01 Pacific time. And it starts with a few minutes of me talking. And then I go into silence. And then going into silence about 3 to 4 minutes before it ends, I have a short little conversation. And this to me is one of my pet projects, because it's so important that we change the mass consciousness into love and send love. The access code and the telephone number is exactly the same as the Tuesday night call in Words of Wisdom. We'll just give that one more time.
Okay. The number is 202 926 1059.
The access code is 125 446 pound. And what I call the replay of the Words of Wisdom, because I deliver a 10-minute message. So you're tied up in traffic, you're driving around, you're angry, you're upset, you can't sleep, you're bored. Just listen to one of these 10-minute messages. Starts at number 3, goes all the way up to probably 255, 256. And you'll always pick the right number. I can't tell you how many people go, I didn't know what number I was picking. I picked number 73. It's just what I needed to hear. So let your intuition tell you, let your soul guide. And that telephone number is
434 300 4170. And the access code?
125 446 pound. Everyone, give that one number one more time, please.
Okay. 434 300 4170.
The access code is the same, 125 446 pound. So I invite all of you and encourage all of you. Because I will tell you, as we look at Mother Earth and we look at the inhabitants, there's a lot of chaos going on. And as the true source said to me, this is the time of the great gathering. Everyone listening to this is part of that gathering. Your soul is directing you to listen to what I have to share with you from the true source. Remember, I'm just a conduit sharing this information. It is so important with all the chaos, the doubt, the insecurities, everything that everyone is worried about. And then I was told to tell everybody, and I'll reiterate it, you are the solution, and you can and are making a difference. And the reason you're making a difference is because you're listening to true inner source guidance and your soul urges. So everyone, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I wish you a great week, a great day. And remember, you are unlimited. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank
Have a
you,
nice
everyone.
day.
Take
We'll see
care.
you next Thursday.
Appreciate it.